The Power of Positive Thinking, a practical guide to mastering the problems of everyday living. Written by Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. Originally published on the year 1956. This recording is a production of Whisper of the Wind. Copyright 2022. This is the second part of Chapter 1. An executive consulted me about a young man whom he wished to advance in his company.
He cannot be trusted with important secret information, and I'm sorry, for otherwise I would make him my administrative assistant. He has all the other necessary qualifications, but he talks too much, and without meaning to do so, divulges matters of private and important nature.
Upon analysis, I found that he talked too much, simply because of an inferiority feeling. To compensate for it, he succumbed to the temptation of parading his knowledge. He associated with men who were rather well-to-do, all of whom had attended college and belonged to a fraternity. But this boy was reared in poverty, had not been a college man or fraternity member. Thus, he felt himself inferior to his associates in education and social background. To build himself up with his associates and to enhance his self-esteem, his subconscious mind, which always seeks to provide a compensatory mechanism, supplied him with a means for raising his ego. He was on the inside in the industry and accompanied his superior to conferences, where he met outstanding men and listened to important private conversations. He reported just enough of his inside information to cause his associates to regard him with admiration and envy. This served to elevate his self-esteem and satisfy his desire for recognition. When the employer became aware of the cause of this personality trait, being a kindly and understanding man, he pointed out to the young man the opportunities in business to which his abilities could lead him. He also described how his inferiority feelings caused his unreliability in confidential matters. This self-knowledge, together with the sincere practicing of the techniques of faith and prayer, made him a valuable asset to his company. His real powers were released. I can perhaps illustrate the manner in which many youngsters acquire an inferiority complex through the use of a personal reference. As a small boy, I was painfully thin. I had lots of energy, was on a track team, was healthy and hard as nails, but thin. And that bothered me, because I didn't want to be thin. I wanted to be fat. I was called skinny, but I didn't want to be called skinny. I wanted to be called fat. I longed to be hard-boiled, and tough, and fat. I did everything to get fat. I drank cod liver oil, consumed vast numbers of milkshakes, ate thousands of chocolate sundaes with whipped cream and nuts, cakes and pies innumerable, but they did not affect me in the slightest. I stayed thin, and lay awake nights thinking and agonizing about it. I kept on trying to get heavy until I was about 30, when all of a sudden, did I get heavy? I bulged at the seams. Then I became self-conscious because I was so fat. Had to take off 40 pounds with equal agony to get myself down to respectable size. In the second place, to conclude this personal analysis, which I give only because it may help others by showing how this malady works. I was a minister's son, and was constantly reminded of that fact. Everybody else could do everything, but if I did even the slightest little thing, you are a preacher's son. So I didn't want to be a preacher's son, for preacher's sons are supposed to be nice and namby-pamby. I wanted to be known as a hard-boiled fellow. Perhaps that is why preachers' sons get their reputation for being a little difficult, because they rebel against having to carry the banner of the church all the time. Also, I came of a family of practically every member of which was a performer in public, a platform speaker, and that was the last thing I wanted to be. They used to make me get up in public, to make speeches when it scared me to death, even filled me with terror. That was years ago, but the twinge of it comes to me every now and then when I walk onto a platform. I had to use every known device to develop confidence in what powers the good Lord gave me. I found the solution of this problem in the simple techniques of faith taught in the Bible. These principles are scientific and sound, and can heal any personality of the pain of inferiority feelings. Their use can enable the sufferer to find and release the powers with which have been inhibited by a feeling of inadequacy. Such are some of the sources of the inferiority complex, which erect power barriers in our personalities. It is some emotional violence done to us in childhood, or the consequences of certain circumstances, or something we did to ourselves. This malady arises out of the misty past and the dim recesses of our personalities. Perhaps you had an older brother who was a brilliant student. He got A's in school. You made only C's, and you never heard the last of it. So you believed that you could never succeed in life as he could. He got A's, and you got C's. So you reasoned that you were consigned to getting C's all of your life. Apparently, you never realized that some of those who failed to get high grades in school have been the greatest successes outside of school. Just because someone gets an A in college doesn't make him the greatest man in the United States. Because maybe this ace will stop when he gets his diploma. Just because somebody gets an A in college doesn't make him the greatest man in the United States. And the fellow who got C's in school will go on later to get the real A's in his life. The greatest secret for eliminating the inferiority complex, which is another term for deep and profound self-doubt, is to fill your mind to overflowing with faith. Develop a tremendous faith in God, and that will give you a humble yet soundly realistic faith in yourself. The acquiring of dynamic faith is accomplished by prayer, lots of prayer, by reading and mentally absorbing the Bible, and by practicing its faith techniques. In another chapter, I will deal with specific formulas of prayer, but I want to point out here that the type of prayer that produces the quality of faith required to eliminate inferiority is of a particular nature. Surface skimming, formalistic, and perfunctory prayer is not sufficiently powerful. A wonderful colored woman, a cook in home of friends of mine in Texas, was asked how she so completely mastered her troubles. She answered that ordinary problems could be met by ordinary prayers, but when a big trouble comes along, you have to pray deep prayers. One of my most inspiring friends was the late Harlow B. Andrews of Syracuse, New York, one of the best businessmen and competent spiritual experts I ever knew. He said the trouble with most prayers is that they aren't big enough. To get anywhere with faith, said he, learn to pray big prayers. God will rate you according to the size of your prayers. Doubtless he was right, for the scriptures say, according to your faith, be it unto you. Matthew 9:29. So the bigger your problem, the bigger your prayer should be. Roland Hayes, the singer, quoted his grandfather to me, a man whose education was not equal to that of his grandson, but whose native wisdom was obviously sound. He said, the trouble with lots of prayers is they ain't got no suction. Drive your prayers deep into your doubts, fears, inferiorities. Pray deep, big prayers that have plenty of suction, and you will come up with powerful and vital faith. Go to a competent spiritual advisor and let him teach you how to have faith. The ability to possess and utilize faith, gain the release of powers it provides are skills, and like any skills, must be studied and practiced to gain perfection. At the conclusion of this chapter are listed 10 suggestions for overcoming your inferiority pattern and for developing faith. Practice these rules diligently, and they will aid you in developing confidence in yourself by dissipating your feelings of inferiority. At this point, however, I wish to indicate that to build up feelings of self confidence, the practice of suggesting confidence concepts to your mind is very effective. If your mind is obsessed by the thoughts of insecurity and inadequacy, it is of course due to the fact that such ideas have dominated your thinking over a long period of time. Another and more positive pattern of ideas must be given the mind, and that is accomplished by repetitive suggestion or confidence ideas. End of Chapter 1, Part 2. Thank you for listening. Watch out for the Part 3.